Now that we have our lakes and rivers multiple ring buffer, let's go ahead and open up the attribute table. Here in the attribute table, you can see that there are essentially our 4 records. So we have a 492, the 820, the 984, and the 1969. But we now want to add a score because later on when we composite these, we're going to want to add those scores up. So to do that, we just go over to our table options, click on the down arrow, and add a field. Now, there is a naming convention that I typically use for these, and so I have kind of a suitability analysis. So it's a capital S, stands for suitability. We're going to do H for habitat, and then we're working on the foraging, so F for foraging, and then score. So that way that stands for suitability analysis, habitat, foraging, score. Now we are going to have small numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and when we add them up, at most we're going to have maybe 16, unless you decide to add another one of your variables to one of these, then you might have something a little bit larger. But short integer will work here because we're not going to have decimal places, so that would be okay. And so then we're going to click OK. So now we have our score. So SHF score. So then when we go back to add them up, we'll know what to look for. The next thing we want to do is we want to go get our editor. So we're going to go up and right click in the empty space, and we're going to go to editor, turn it on. We're going to go to the editor drop down and start editing. And we're going to pick our lakes and rivers multiple ring buffer layer, click OK. Just continue, you can ignore this. Now, I still have my thing over here, the scores, so you notice that 492 is 4, and then 3, 2, 1. And so I'm just going to come in here and type 4, go down and type 3, 2, and 1. So it should just look like that, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go up to my editor toolbar and save edits. And then I'm going to stop editing. So one last step I'm going to do, and the only reason I do this step is so that way when I go back later to composite my models together, I know which one I'm looking for. And so I'm just going to export this, right click, go to data, export data, and then I'm going to make sure it's the data frame just so everything ends up being in the same coordinate system. But I am going to end up calling this lakes and rivers, and then scores. So this is the one that has my suitability scores in, and I can find it later in my data folders. So I'm going to click save, click OK. I'll add that back in, and then I'm just going to turn these other ones off for now, but then I'm going to go and visualize it in a way that shows those ranking scores. So I'm going to go to symbology, I'm going to go to quantities, I'm going to go to values, I'm going to go to that SHF score, and since I'm dealing with water here, I'm going to do some gradient of like this. I'm going to click on each one of these, and I like to just turn the outlines off because they're so small. They get distracting at the county scale. So I'm just going to quickly go through and make these no color. Click OK. So there you can see the areas that have a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1 quite well. That concludes this part of the video, and it concludes the lakes and rivers portion of the foraging habitat. So in the next video, we're going to move on to the land uses. Thanks.